Hey Amit, how's it going?
All good, man. How you been?
All good, all good. As usual in these crazy times, like you
Yes.
say. So here we are doing one more episode, all from
Yes,
home, all remote.
but this
Uh,
one's a little different.
This one is different. This one is a Shunya One special, and in collaboration with the good folks at Lenovo. And this is actually going to be interesting, right? We're going to be doing a few of these, and
Yes.
I'm hoping to see and obviously hear about a lot of interesting things from our guest Chinmoy Ghatak.
Yeah, Chinmoy is a really interesting guy. He's the head of services, sales, and relationship business at Lenovo India, and he has some really interesting insights around basically how hardware is used by all the various companies, startups, smaller SMEs, etc. And I'm really looking forward to the conversation with him.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, he himself has been at Lenovo for a long time. It'll be interesting to hear his journey,
Mhm.
especially because Lenovo used to be IBM, and we've always known both these brands. Most people know these brands as hardware companies, right? They
Uh-huh.
build, laptops and they build machines. But what we are gonna go into probably is some of the stuff which people don't know
Mhm.
about their, you know, turnkey sort of services and especially relevant stuff in today's remote work world. So
Yeah.
I have a lot of questions to ask,
Yeah.
definitely about all the things they do, and especially all how it's all relevant, like you said, to whether it's startups or a small business. So
Yeah, I'm super curious as
let's
well.
get into it.
Let's get into it. Let's talk to Chinmay Ghatak.
Hi Chinmoy, welcome to the show. How are you
Hi,
doing?
Shiladitya. Thanks for inviting me here. Yeah, I'm good.
Great.
How are
Thank you
you?
so much for joining. All good, all good. We are, we're every time we do a show remotely. I nowadays I forget where people are. I mean, usually we used to do this in a studio in Bombay. Now, so it's customary for me to ask which city are you in? Is how things going?
Yeah. So let me address that. Yeah, I'm in Bangalore, and how is going is in a lockdown condition, whatever it can be, it is like that.
Yes. Have you got your vaccinations?
Yeah, thankfully I got both my vaccines.
Lovely,
That's so
lovely.
lucky. I wish I could get both. I mean, I
Yes.
guess not lucky, but yeah, I mean, like,
You'll get it. I think everybody
I
is
Yeah,
would,
I
getting.
I
You
would,
will
I
also
would,
get. Yeah.
I would.
we
I'm
the
sure I will.
all the company driven efforts are starting actually now, so I'm hoping to get mine through work as well, so it should be
Mhm.
fun.
Mm.
Yeah. Good.
True,
Good.
true.
Good.
Cool.
Great. So Chinmay, thank you so much for joining. We have there's a lot of interesting things I want to talk to you about, but for everyone listening, if you could give us a quick background on your own personal journey, and of course your role here at Lenovo, and what exactly it is that you oversee and take care of.
Okay. See, my personal journey in corporate life is a bit of a mix of back end activity as well as front end activity. Back end when I'm in operational, and front end I'm in sales, customer facing activities. It's almost 50-50. I have been working 30 plus years, and initially I started with operations because I had joined L&T, and I remember I was told to go to do sales in eastern part of India. Then I said, no, I want to know how an organization works. So then they put
Mm,
me into a planning division where we had to plan from the scratch new project.
Mm.
So I did had the advantage of learning how a product production, a particular product line planning happens. And there
Mhm.
was no internet that time, so we had to use datas, and we had to also call embassies and get company information. So that was interesting. It was a period where we had telex. There was fax came slightly immediately. So I'm actually a dinosaur now.
I feel your pain.
So anyway, so that way then uh, post that I entered into sales areas, and at some point I joined IBM, and it got acquired by Lenovo. I did set up a manufacturing facility in Baddi for Lenovo, and it during the 2008 downturn period, later this that particular uh, plant was closed down. but I did had a huge amount of personal experience doing that. Then I
Wow.
came back into service sales, pure sales, and I started taking care of the services sales business. And today I take care of the commercial services sales vertical in Lenovo India. And
Lovely.
in between, I did had an opportunity to work into Middle East market, Latin American market, Africa market a bit, and also Russia, and obviously AP market. So I did had a global exposure also in terms of doing services business, helping them build up there. So that's it, a brief of me.
Lovely. Lovely.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So, could you maybe give us a little more insight into what your day-to-day activities at Lenovo involve? Like, you mentioned that you oversee certain functions, right? But what's your day like?
Okay, my day like it actually starts with meeting, ends with meeting, to be honest. And in between I need to find out my time, which I call is a time where I can think of progress tasks. Like there are certain tasks which are maintenance. If I don't do, there is a problem. It has to be. Mom has to cook. Say maintenance task. But if mom has to think of a recipe, it's a progress task. So that is not urgent and important. And if we do that, we will have long-term benefit in the organization. So finding out that time is a challenge for me. And okay, so that's the way my work goes. There are team meetings, and there's a set of sales team in the market through whom we generate revenue, and they are not directly reporting to me. So their reporting structure is different. So how do I get work out of them?
Hmm.
By incentivizing them, by motivating them, by enabling them, by handholding them, and get the revenue target that is there in front of the organization. So that's what is my job.
Wow. And when you say service sales, I mean, obviously, I actually wanted to ask a little more background about, you were with the original IBM, like you said, PC division, which Lenovo took over, and Lenovo is, of course, a big name in the hardware industry, in the IT products industry. So the service network or the service sales, the revenue, like you said, must be substantial, right? Because you are a full-fledged, like, OEM and handling massive services.
Yeah, actually, we started small, and but I think we have grown up substantially in the commercial services area. Not only commercial, every services areas. And we are aiming at a very high number, which is beyond 100 million type of number, much beyond 100 million type of number in a year. So
Wow.
we are doing good, and we are aiming very high. That's the point.
So, how does Lenovo differentiate from competition, right? I mean, like, what do you say is the special sauce?
Okay. See, Lenovo per se is not trying to respond to competition, but Lenovo is looking way forward. Let me put it this way, that Lenovo has a long-term strategy that is based something called a 3S strategy, which talks about smart IoT. Then it talks about smart infrastructure, which is basically IT infrastructure, and it talks about smart vertical, which is basically vertical-based solutions engagement. Now, these are the pillars. Now, uh, the underlying layers from what will help us is service-led transformation. That's what we are talking about today. And for that, there are three layers. Like the bottommost layer will be attached services, where we attach various services with the machines that we are selling. Then comes managed service layer, where irrespective of the hardware, we are providing service to the organization to manage their facilities, infrastructure, which is increasing stickiness. And the third topmost layer there is the complex solution layer, where we are becoming a trusted consultant of the organization to support into their endeavor, whatever their project is, and be a long-term engaged player with them. So that's the way. And So this is basically, I just told you about some certain vertical layers and certain parallel horizontal layers. If we look at how we engage with organizations is, if you look at it at a product level, we are there into the entire product life cycle. For example, it starts with planning to retirement of the assets, which is, when I'm talking about assets, the hard assets and soft assets, as well as whatever maintenance management associated with that. So we go through various stages like plan, like one size does not fit all users. Like if there is a factory where there is a shop floor supervisor, the type of hardware the person will need, vis-a-vis a finance director, he needs a different hardware, right? A tablet
Mm,
may be good for a supervisor. So that way we help them plan the hardware. Then comes a next stage, comes configuring it, because no hardware works on its own. It requires configuration in terms of operating system, in terms of applications, and there is antivirus layer. Then there are a lot of other organization specific policies, all those things. So once that configuration happens, I think we can more talk more about configuration later. Then comes the support, where we need to provide warranty support as well as certain other supports which are not part of standard warranty, like accidental damage protection. We have something called premier support. And then comes managing it. Now when we are talking about managing it, we are not talking about at a hardware level, we are moving up, where
mhm.
we can deploy warm body skills. We can deploy manpower with certain skills, deploy certain tools, and help manage the organization's facilities. So this is the manage layer, the management activity. Once the product reaches its end of life, when there is a time to retire the product, there also we can come into support, where if organization is only looking to dispose of the hardware in an environmental friendly manner. Now when I say environmental friendly manner, it means that the hardware should not
Like
electronic waste,
e-waste.
it
Yeah.
should not reach air, water, and earth. That's what is environmental friendly. So we can dispose of that way.
Also, air, water, and earth. What's
Ye-
left? Where does it go?
yeah,
In the
it's a
vacuum of
trick.
space.
It's a tricky. So that's why it has to be recycled. It has to be recycled, processed in a manner, and it's a totally different area of discussion. You can probably have another session with the right set of people on this. And if any organization is looking to realize the residual value, like a machine is old, they are not using more than 3 years, but beyond that also there will be people who would like to use it. So if they are looking for a residual value, we can work on refurbishing those machines and resell it in the market and give them the residual value. So that's the way the whole product life cycle comes into picture, where we can get engaged with,
Wow.
we can support an organization.
So
So,
this is huge, right? This whole sort of this is actually end to end. I mean, the way you described each and every stage, I would never have thought of it myself as to how many aspects of of a hardware product, from the day it's manufactured to the day it's sort of put in that vacuum of space, is it goes through so many hands and stages and changes, and as a manufacturer, you are handling all of that, obviously with the service layer involved,
Yeah,
not just
because
shipping and saying now this is your hardware and
yeah,
we have nothing else to
it's
do with it.
right. In fact, service is definitely a big component here, where we can bring in value, we can add value to organizations pain points. And
Right.
especially in this COVID situation where people are working from home, there's a lot of disturbance into the regular working environment of the organizations. So
Right.
service becomes a big player here.
can you give us some examples of how Lenovo helps in this scenario, right? I mean, like the fact that everybody is working from home these days. How do you help with like creating a more kind of technically friendly environment for people to do that kind of work?
Okay, so basically what you are saying is that now that the people are working from home,
Mhm.
how do we add value, right?
Yes.
Yeah, what has changed? I mean,
Yeah.
beyond what you would
Yeah,
have done if pre-COVID.
let's look at it this way. Uh, See, earlier people were seated in one office area and they had IT small help desk. They may have been. I'm talking about fairly mid and large organization point of view. They may have a IT help desk there. So if any problem is there, the guy is called. He comes in, fixes it, or if he gives a standby laptop or something,
Mhm.
and the person is up and running. There are many organizations where the employees are billable resource. So downtime impacts the billing ability of the organization, right? Now, the moment you are spread all over the country, and I'm actually telling you that's all over the country. There are people who were working in Bangalore earlier. In lockdown, they may have gone to T2, T3,
Mhm.
Tower 4 cities also, and internet is also helping them today to work from anywhere.
Right.
Now, and there is a recruitment is also happening. Let's start from the very beginning how we can support. Suppose a new machine has to go to an end user. Now, earlier, the machine would have come to the IT desk of the company and they will be configuring it with the right applications which is to be used by that person. Because why I'm saying right that person, because the application which is required by finance is not required by marketing, correct?
Right.
So there is a user specific application and user specific policies are to be deployed into the machine before the user becomes up and running. Now a lot of this activity, rather most of this activity, can move to the factory level. We can do it at the factory. The machine can directly go to the end user. We can create certain scripts which will run and it will engage that user with the company network.
Hmm.
And if the organization is already on a Microsoft CSP cloud, Azure cloud, then the autopilot, there is something called autopilot which will automatically connect to the cloud and download whatever user specific policies or data or
Yeah.
whatever is required. So the whole activity which was happening at an IT desk is not required right now. We can operate between factory and the user space. This is what is called modern IT, and it's really something very powerful.
Yeah.
To add to it, if a user's machine hard disk has gone faulty, say by chance, so under warranty, what will happen? Somebody will come and replace that with a new hard disk. But he needs to have the company image. Now there
Hmm.
we can also maintain that image and host it in a cloud at a cloud level by from where the user can download it into the machine. The no physical presence of IT person is required. It can be guided on phone, or many organizations who are using a logistical support, like they send somebody to pick up the machine, bring it back to a central point and do the activity and send it back, which is which involves a good amount of downtime and a billable resource. The resource cannot be billed by the organization. So all those things becomes a huge value add that we bring in, which becomes also cost effective for the organization. So I think I gave you a very solid example where
Yeah.
we can.
Yeah, yeah, and is this what you were talking about earlier? That configurations and the specific sort of customization options for people. Is this in the same realm of what you
Yes,
just spoke about?
yes, the whole thing is basically part of configuration services. And if I break the configuration services, it can be like we can see. Let me just take you a bit about what was happening. Like earlier, what was happening? Organization can take a, a machine with a standard image or no image, no OS or
Yeah, just
standard
the
OS,
OS. Yeah,
just the OS, or maybe no OS. They have their own OS license. Then there is a need
right.
to load the operating system. Then there is a need to package the applications and also do antivirus layer into it, and then customize as for the user, because all the applications are not applicable for all the users.
Right.
All the policies are not. So the next level, what happened is organization started loading OS as well as common applications at a factory level.
Hmm.
Then came another stage where operating system, common applications, and certain scripting can happen, so that when the machine reaches the end user will select, okay, this is my location, this is my department, or certain other menu driven thing, and then the image which is appropriate for that person that gets exploded on that machine. So it becomes very, very
Correct.
user specific.
Correct.
Now under Microsoft modern IT has come another what do I say, another technological enhancement which organization can use, where something can come from the factory, those machines hardware gets registered into the cloud, which is called autopilot registration. Once that happens and it reaches the end user specific policies or applications, whatever is remaining not loaded at the factory, can be downloaded, so that user is up
Hmm.
and running right from the beginning. And that's the marvel of IT, where no human intervention is required, no IT intervention is required.
So how do you as a company then actually provide support to the folks using this, right? Because you said the IT help desk is now removed, or
No, I'm not saying
it
remove
doesn't
I.
exist
So no,
in the physical office anymore.
no, it is. See, I don't think we can totally. Any organization would like to do that, but see, they can minimize their involvement. See, every organization today has a pressure on their budget. The demand on IT is always increasing, but the
Yeah.
budget is not always increasing. So in
Right.
that situation, if a lot of things which can happen in the factory level can happen, or a lot of things which can happen at a cloud level, if that is being used, then organizations will have resources where they can deploy where it is more productive for them. So I'm not
Correct. So
saying
this
it will be,
actually
yeah,
helps them save cost, is what you're saying.
correct. Help them save costs, help them free their manpower to put them into a more productive areas.
Correct.
So it's not eliminating the IT desk at all. I'm not at
Oh,
all talking or directing towards that.
of course, but yes, they can do more. I would say work which is more efficient of their time and effort. So all of this is automation, essentially, that you're providing.
Yes, yes, yes.
And so since all of this is remote, and of course you mentioned this is cloud configured now, of course, being work from home, people know. I'm guessing the average employee in the company who did not care about what was being remote monitored in their laptop, or what was, what were all these other protocols implemented. They probably always knew that, okay, I have to come to the office and the office Wi-Fi is secure, and all of that is it's like an environment which is designed for work, and my machine works in that environment. So today that has also changed. So what kind of, when it comes to post implementation or the post sales support or remote management of these
Okay.
devices and hardware, what do you
Yeah,
provide in that?
yeah. Let me talk slightly. Let's think of in a current situation. See, there are. I think you are meaning about this current work from home environment, right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's look at the pain points of the IT manager. First of all, IT manager has to deliver. If a new employee is there, IT manager has to deliver a machine which is completely image. That I already talked to you.
Right.
Second is, organization may like to know where that physical asset is located. Where is it located on Google Map? There are
Yeah.
many people who would like to know. Then they would like to know the inventory, hard inventory and soft assets inventory. When I'm saying hard, it is like how much RAM is there, what is the hard disk is there. See, all these things are going to help them in doing their uh, budgeting for next year, advanced planning, right? Or also
Mhm.
if they have to take certain corrective actions, if some application is going to come which requires a higher memory and the user do not have high memory, they need to be provided that, right? At the
Mhm.
same way, software licenses, the organization may be having X number of licenses, but there are some users who are not using that license. So it's a wastage. They need to know. So asset management is something a very important activity for the CFO of the organization, and IT actually supports them. So this
Mhm.
is also a pain point there. Then comes mixed operating system environment. If I have to do IT asset management through a tool, uh, even today, most of the organization will have one tool for Windows based hardware, another tool
Yeah.
for Mac based hardware, another for mobile devices.
Mobile.
What
Yeah.
if, yeah, what if we can provide one tool that can take care of all these environments, which we can? So these are the value adds that we can do in terms of asset management, right? Then comes standardization. Like every IT manager would like their employees use the standard image applications which are authorized, or the application versions which are permitted. They're
Right.
tested within the ways, and they don't want a lot of things not to run, and patch management. So all those things has to happen from a remote environment point of view. Those things, those standardization is something that we can help. And
Yeah.
downtime management point of view, there are two type of activity can be done. One is we can deploy tools which will give proactive alert of both hardware level problem as well as software and application layer problem also. It We do have something called LDI, that is Lenovo Device Intelligence Management, which has after a lot of internal activity and using tons of customer data, using artificial intelligence and machine learning, we have developed this. This is a tool to provide a proactive alert through a dashboard to the IT manager, so that before a problem happens, some action can be taken, so
Wow.
that the downtime is getting minimized. Now,
Right.
suppose a downtime happens, then there is a need to turn around to fix that as quickly as possible. For that, we do have premier support, and we can also provide SLA based support, location wise, town wise SLA based support to the organization. So then the last but not the least, when it comes to security, when this COVID thing came up, a lot of organizations, when they allowed their employees to work from home, many of them had to open port on their firewall, and they
Yeah.
got affected by ransomware, and it was tough for them. Now, we do have security solution, which is artificial intelligence based, which is which is one level above the normal antivirus, which are database driven and proxy server driven. So today, organizations will have a proxy server, and there will be a antivirus database. Now, if a threat comes and the database do not have that signature of the threat, that antivirus will not be able to protect
Right.
it.
Right.
But an artificial intelligence based software, it will check if any particular application is misbehaving, is suddenly having a cancerous growth or some such thing, and it will immediately quarantine and stop that. So we do have that type of solution, and it can handle the user machine whether it is connected with internet or not. There are many solutions where it requires internet connectivity to protect them from such threats. But we do have solution where even if the internet is not there, somebody puts a USB key and the threat is there, it can be protected. So that's the security layer which we have. So I think
Wow.
I told
Yeah.
you what we can
Yeah. Yeah,
talk.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So it's really end to end, like you were explaining earlier, where you have thought of obviously what situations your product or the actual device might be in the user's hands, wherever the
Yeah,
user is, of course.
yeah.
Awesome, awesome.
So, I just want to ask one last question, right? I mean, like you've spoken a little bit about this broadly, right? But I just from a remote management perspective, right, in terms of the kinds of functionalities that people can access, how do you think that that really has kind of affected the way that people are able to deploy their machines in different spaces, right? Given the pandemic that we're dealing with and such.
Uh, how do you think the remote management tools are helping the customers? That's what you're saying.
Yes, that's what I'm asking. Yes. Ways
Yeah,
which they feel, ways in which, like, again, examples would be are good.
yeah.
uh
A very simple example. When there's a lockdown, and we have to send an engineer to an user space to diagnose the problem. It's a problem because police will not allow, and computer industry, this computer hardware is not considered as an essential item. So if we can diagnose that remotely, and let me tell you, 80% of the user problem can be solved without any spare support.
Okay.
that's that's you can take it as a thumb rule. And if there are 800 calls coming to a help desk, 80 calls will get resolved on phone or through remote support where spare is not required.
Hmm.
So remote tools are so very essential, and the remote tools can also help in this proactive management. For example, many organizations can have a data encryption. Now there is a decay in data encryption. It does happen. But if you have a software tool that arrests that decay, if there is a software tool which can do a self-healing of applications, we do have such uh, support available, then you can actually arrest those problems from happening in a
Oh
remote
wow,
working
that
environment.
sounds insane. Sorry, so what you're saying is that basically remotely the IT help desk can look at different software applications themselves and see that there are problems developing within those, and basically deploy solutions remotely as well without. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, the tool will tell where the problem is coming, and then they will decide what is the right action to be taken. So it's basically proactive alert. Or if you do a proper patch management, you can always resolve problem before it actually happens, because
Right.
patches are released to take care of issues, right? So that
And
way.
patch deployment can also happen remotely. You don't need to have
Yes,
the actual list. Okay, that's actually really
correct,
interesting too.
correct.
Hmm. Awesome, man. That's really interesting stuff.
Yeah, and the fact that the entire, I would say, the team, which you started with, right? The entire team that you manage, Chinmoy, which looks after this. I'm guessing this. There are so many different, I would say, uh, divisions which you just spoke about, and all of these services sort of cut across them, uh, working with various customers that you have.
Yes, we do have teams responsible for certain modules, and me and our team actually cut across all, and we are the front end for the for the customers and for our sales guys. For me, my internal customer is my salespeople,
Mhm.
and obviously customer is my actual customer. So I have two layer of customers to handle.
That's awesome. That's incredible.
Lovely.
No, very, very, very informative. Very kind of like you hear about remote desktop. Again, Shiladitya works at a huge company. I don't work at such a large company, right? So for us, the idea of using deploying these kinds of services are not something that we've done that much, but they sound so fascinating and so efficient from a cost efficiency perspective, and like just a people don't get shut down for 3 days at a time when they don't have a computer, right? And I mean, like the
Yeah.
all from that perspective, this just sounds really, really fascinating and interesting to me.
Yeah, that's what is our endeavor, to provide, to add value to the users, and also remove the pain points that they
Mhm.
have.
Awesome, great. Cool.
Perfect. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Chinmoy. This was an eye opener as to into the entire, I would say, the spectrum of what you call services. And of course, definitely for me, I now know a lot more about Lenovo, the entire company, beyond just the label on a laptop. So thank you
Thank
for this
yeah,
explanation.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for giving me a chance to talk about this. Thank you, Shiladitya and Amit.
thank you so much for being our guest. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.